Did you know that Asia Wilson, star of the Las Vegas Aces, and Asia Wilson, star of USA Basketball, are the same person? All this and much more with Matthew Walter of the Next. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there and happy Wednesday to you. Howard Megdal here, welcoming you to Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 200,000 of you showed up for us in July alone, the way we show up for you 6 days a week. And of course, this is not just me, it is the incredible staff across the board over at thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces every month on the past, present, and future of women's basketball. Go ahead, sign up, get our email, see what it's all about, and get every story sent to your email. $9 a month, $72 a year, thenexthoops.com. And someone who has been doing a bit of it all for us through the years, whether it's the Aces, whether it is college stories all across the West. Matthew Walter, newly crowned head coach or newly crowned assistant coach, I understand, right? Take me through your new gig before we get into talking about Asia Wilson, Tiffany Hayes, the Aces, and USA Basketball.
Yeah, so I just accepted a role as the assistant coach at Santa Rosa Junior College. It's a small community college just north of San Francisco, which is in the area I'm based. Super excited about the opportunity. It's a program that has a lot of success, created a lot of great Division II, Division I transfer players over the last 10 years under our head coach, Lacey Campbell, and looking forward to jumping in and adding some good energy and good stuff to this team and this program that's been very successful recently.
Obviously, people who read you know you are an X's and O's guy. Getting the opportunity to apply that in two different ways, I would imagine, has to be a fascinating way to study the game. So I'm glad you get to do all of it, which is really exciting. And someone else who's getting to do all of it right now is Tiffany Hayes, who was signed by the Las Vegas Aces. She came out of retirement in order to do this. You had a terrific story about Tiffany Hayes and had a chance to catch up with her. Take me through just kind of your top line takeaways from seeing somebody who, and we've talked about it on the program, is underrated in WNBA history, getting a chance to now play and trying for another championship.
Tiffany Hayes is a busy person. Like, Tiffany Hayes does a lot of things, and that's actually the big reason why she decided to retire at the end of, to step away from the WNBA. And it was because she has so much other stuff going on, right? She has a clothing line, which she just showed at Miami Swim Week about a month or so ago. She has her own headset company that also makes clothing apparel. And on top of that, she opened a basketball gym in Atlanta where she played for many years. So to say that she is a basketball only person is an understatement. Tiffany Hayes does so much and clearly has a thought of what she wants to do when basketball is over. And it wasn't like she wasn't playing basketball at all. She was still playing overseas, but I think she had just sort of felt like her run in the WNBA was over. It just was time for her to be able to focus a little bit part of the year on her outside things, the things that she was passionate about outside of basketball. And secondly, her beach shape was really good because she can't come back and hasn't looked like she's missed a step. Her offense has slowly gotten better and better. She scored 17 and 19 in the last two games before we got to the Olympic break, but it just felt like she's found her rhythm and found her role. And she's someone who came in and said, look, I don't need to be doing a whole lot, right? I just need to play defense, score when I can, like be a microwave scorer in moments where it makes sense, and help us win a championship. It's more about the other. She knows she plays for on a Hall of Fame coach. She plays with a bunch of future Hall of Famers. She doesn't need to get in the way of that. She just knows score off the bench, bring good energy, play defense.
It reminds me, they used to talk about Manny Mota in Major League Baseball, that you could wake him up at 3:00 in the morning. He could get a pinch hit for you, come off the bench and do it. And to have Tiffany Hayes do, like you said, she hasn't missed a beat. You go across her numbers, and the more you dive in, the more impressive it is. She's just doing everything she did last year, and everything she was doing last year for the Connecticut Sun was right in line with her career numbers. But she's shooting 49% from the field so far in 17 games. 2 games started, over 350 minutes played. So this is not a small sample size anymore. Hitting her threes, making sure she's defending, doing a little bit of everything. I guess what I wonder is when you talk to her, did she seem surprised that it all just kind of came right back to her after some time away where she wasn't playing overseas? She was coming back here and, didn't play at the start of the season. Had to sort of jump into the middle.
No, she said it definitely felt like it took up until, even when I talked to her, she said she wasn't where she was when she was playing in Connecticut last year, and she don't think she'll ever get back to how she was in Atlanta. But she knew it would take time, and the thing she appreciated was Aces were giving her that time. They were giving her the ability to find her way into it, and also the flexibility to do those other things outside of basketball. She missed one game where she was away from the team because she was off doing stuff with her clothing line where she was at Miami Swim Week. So allowing her to be flexible. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons she decided to come back and sign with the Aces. But like A'ja Wilson talked about after her first game against Dallas, she's been there 7 years. And some of the things that she still doesn't know in 7 years, Tiffany is sort of figuring out. So just like very high praise from both her teammates and Becky Hammon on the things that she's done in her short stint. And I think this Olympic break is good for her, right? She's going to get some energy playing Azerbaijan national team on the 3-on-3, come back and be a good person to sort of step right in and feel comfortable coming back and playing a bigger role and continuing to develop off the bench and be more in basketball shape come the second half of the season.
I mean, in a lot of ways, and I wanted to ask you about that, getting this opportunity, getting these reps. And for those who may not know, she is on the 3-on-3 Azerbaijani national team playing at the Olympics. It's almost more important for her. She talked about, and again, she's been quick to downplay her own accomplishments through the years. And I felt almost like a responsibility to make sure people fully understand. This is by win shares, the 40th ranked player in the history of the WNBA. And I don't think the conversation around her mirrors that to the extent it ought to. But at the same time, giving her the chance to come back, she says she's not the player she was in Atlanta, not the player she was in Connecticut. All evidence to the contrary with what she was able to do and do right away. Do you think there is, having seen her play up close, another level to what she can bring to the Aces over the second half of the season? Like, what is there something missing, I guess?
I don't think there's something missing. I just think she's going to get more comfortable, right? She's going to find her rhythm offensively because, again, you look at some of those games, right? She's had some close to 20-point games that she's had some games, hasn't shot the ball well, low score. I just think she needs to find her rhythm. And early in the time with the Aces, she wasn't shooting the three ball well. She shot it better later as the time went on. But again, it's just getting in a rhythm. And I think you talked about it, like playing 3-on-3 is good for her because it's a different style of basketball. So it teaches you to be a little bit more aggressive. You have to make sort of basketball reads and score a little more because you're 1 of 3 instead of 1 of 5 on the floor. And she's shown that. I think she had 10 or 11 points in their first matchup for the national team in that 3-on-3 competition that they've been playing in Paris. And secondly, she's just going to continue to get in basketball shape, right? She's not going to use the break to sort of some of the players who don't play over in Paris, take a break, then they get back to going after it, but she's going to have to be going after it 24/7. And I think, she got her break at the beginning when she wasn't playing, when she was retired, and now she should come back in really good shape, and they're going to need it, right? 4 players on the U.S. national team, another one on the Spanish national team. This is a team that, they got healthy, but they also really only play 7-8 players. They're going to need to have their best group in shape, and one of their key bench players, Kate Martin, got hurt right before we went to the break. So how much will all of these things factor in? I think she's got a chance to be an even bigger scorer, get her average up closer to 10 or 11 points a game once we get into the second half, and now that she's found some offensive rhythm.
There's also the fact that she can be an extra potential playmaking guard. As we remember when Chelsea Gray got hurt during the WNBA finals last year, were you the point guard? I think it was you, right? There was no point guard to speak of. Maybe it was Kayla George. I mean, it was crazy. It was fascinating to see.
By committee.
That's it. And a committee that was not made up of players who have any experience running. Becky Hammon was up front about it when we were talking to her during the finals, as you remember. But that's not an insignificant thing to have somebody who you can trust in that moment as well. So I'm really eager to see it. I also, and fresh reporting over at the 9 about the fact that Tiffany Hayes has already signed the contract for $100,000 this year and next year from the LVCVA, from somebody who, like all WNBA players, was underpaid for a very long time. Obviously, there's a lot more to that, and I would urge you to go to the 9 to read about it. But from just the perspective of Tiffany Hayes getting a payday, that's something that's always significant, however it gets there. So we'll talk more about that, of course, in the weeks ahead as well. But after this break, I'm going to come back and talk to you guys about, like I said, A'ja Wilson. It turns out great at basketball internationally as well, as we knew from previous times out there. But just an absolute pleasure to talk about her greatness, and we will get into that right after this. But first, excited to talk to you guys about Miracle Made sheets. And look, it's really hot. I'm not in Vegas, I'm in Jersey, but it's still very, very hot here. And you need sheets that are not going to make it too hot at night. And that's where Miracle Made sheets come in. Inspired by NASA, using silver infused fabrics, they are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. You didn't take it from me. I just did it. I'm feeling nice and energized, as busy as it is this time of year, because of Miracle Made sheets. I love the way they look. My wife is very happy with them too, which is the most important thing. I cannot tell you how happy we are with them. And you can have that happiness too. Go to trymiracle.com/locked on. Again, that is trymiracle.com/LOCKEDON. You can try Miracle Made sheets today. If you order today, you can save over 40% and even use the promo code Locked On at checkout to get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Now, listen, Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. Go to trymiracle.com/locked on and use the code Locked On to claim. Oh, I didn't even tell you the free 3-piece towel set. You get it on top of it. Also the 40% off. trymiracle.com/locked on. Thank you to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Locked On Women's Basketball is also brought to you by FanDuel. So we're here in the summer. Right now, WNBA is out of season. NBA isn't happening. NBA, for those who may not know, there's a men's professional basketball league as well, the little brother league of the WNBA, but they're not playing right now either. But FanDuel, no matter what's going on this time of year, they give you the opportunity to not only bet, but you open the app and then you can dream up bets from them every single day, plus a boost or a bonus. Every single day, all summer long, just open the app, you get a boost or a bonus. They always have something. Go over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Back here with Matthew Walter, talking about Las Vegas Aces, USA Basketball. What's the... there's a relationship. Yeah, right. A'ja Wilson, Chelsea Gray. I knew they looked familiar. Matthew, is that true? Or do they play for both teams?
Yes, they are both on the Las Vegas Aces, and they both also start for the USA national team in the Paris Olympics.
So here's where I want to start. Seeing Chelsea Gray back out on the court, and I've had the privilege of covering her dating back to her college days. It's a real treat. She had we now know, a foot fracture. This is hard to come back from. Were you confident that she would be able to play for this national team? That, were you seeing her ramp up her game to the point that she was ready to do it? Because Lord knows there were some players waiting in the wings if she was not a full go by the time they set the roster.
If you asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said probably not, just because we were not getting a lot of information. They were taking it day by day, week by week, so on and so forth. I think once she played her first start and she started to find her offensive game, then the answer was yes. I knew she was ready. The second that she got on the floor and she moved fine and she could defend, and the answer was yes. Because the number one weapon that Chelsea Gray has is not physical. It's up here. It's mental. She
Mhm.
kills you with her mind. She is a basketball, one of the most brilliant basketball players I've ever watched play. And and I'm 27, but I've watched a lot of very good high IQ basketball. Her IQ is unheard of. The things that she sees, the passes she makes, the plays she makes, and just it's all very, very high level. And those are the things that you need on the floor, even if they're not like doing great things, scoring the ball. Like she just does the little things. She does her famous defensive strip down where someone tries to come up. She just takes it from them. She's great at that. Again, sees the floor really well. And she's just she's in shape now. Her foot, she's clearly gotten more confident in it. And she's in basketball shape where she can be out there and not be a hindrance. And she's always, anytime she's on the floor and doing things on offense, she's obviously a help. But she's not going to do anything negative because she's A, got this really good basketball IQ, and B, she's found her footing, no pun intended.
I am 44, so I am prepared to tell you that I have also seen very few players who play with the same IQ as Chelsea Gray. But again, physicality is a key part of what she does as well. And so seeing her being able to be that force matters. I think the key for me, and where I came to believe that she was enough of a difference maker that clearly USA basketball had to take her, was you look at what the aces were before she came back and after she came back. They were 6-6, despite the fact that A'ja Wilson was taking on more volume, did not give up any of her efficiency in the process. 6-6, despite the talent of Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, and the list goes on. This is obviously a very talented Aces team. 12 games once Chelsea Gray returned. Aces are 10-2, tied for the Liberty over that 12-game span. Net rating of 12.3, ahead of even what the New York Liberty are doing overall. And again, it is sparked by a league best offensive rating in that time of 108.8. These are not coincidences. And so I guess as you think about Chelsea Gray, specifically to USA Basketball, you notice something, I think, about what the offense was with Chelsea Gray on the floor as it related to A'ja Wilson. Take me through what you saw in that win over Japan.
I would guess Chelsea Gray had 13 assists, and I didn't count this, but I would have to guess that close to half of them were to A'ja Wilson.
Right.
And it's so much of it is outlet to Chelsea, off her defensive rebound, whether it's Breanna Stewart or A'ja, and A'ja just runs the floor so much better at the center post position than anyone in the game.
Yeah.
Her ability to outlet the ball. The thing she's added this year is she's handling it herself. But with Chelsea back, she don't need to just give it to Chelsea and she runs. She's like a gazelle. She just runs. Yeah. And she has such good hands that all she needs to do is put a little bit of touch on it from Chelsea, and A'ja's going to catch it. And 99% of the time, she's going to finish. And 50% of the time, she's probably also going to get fouled because she's also very strong. Yeah. So her combination of athleticism, ability to catch the ball and finish, and draw fouls is something that's it's unguardable, right? And because of the fact that, she was so much bigger than everyone on Japan, it was easy for her to outrun their bigs because she's just so used to being this just runs the floor, gazelle athlete. And Chelsea has such beautiful touch on the ball. It's easy for her to find her. And even in the half court, right, there's a couple times they ran a little ball screen action. A'ja just goes to the short roll. They throw it to her and she can face up and attack because that's her game. And the nice thing about the starting group that the USA team is playing, everybody else on the floor shoots threes. Breanna shoots threes, Chelsea shoots threes, Diana Taurasi shoots threes, Nafisa Collier can shoot the three. It's an all 3-point shooting team around the best post player in the game in A'ja Wilson. It's hard
and we got to point out, A'ja Wilson can shoot threes too. She's shooting 39.5% from threes. She's taking her 2.5 threes per game. It just, I know we've talked about it, but it doesn't get old for me. She's got this turnover percentage of 6.4%, which is among the best numbers if it's over the full season that anyone's ever put up. Elena Deladon was particularly good at this. Breanna Stewart, particularly good at this. It's right up there with some of the best single season efforts that we've seen on that. And what does that come back to? It comes back to the way in which A'ja understands the game, the fact that she is making so few mistakes as she is being asked to do so much. It boggles the mind what she's able to do. And yes, I mean, having a 5-out setup, but you can still have A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart on the floor at the same time. It's pretty good. Before you even get into the fact that some of the leading challengers for USA basketball in 5-on-5 had early missteps. Australia losing, Canada losing early on. Things are opening up for Team USA. I think they're going to be okay. I don't remember. They have some new inexperienced coach running things. I can't remember who it is. Cheryl something.
I think inexperience is the wrong word. I think you put the word in there that doesn't need to be there. I think the word is experienced.
Wrong prefix. Yeah, I mean, Cheryl Reeves is going to figure it out anyway, but everything's coming up Team USA right now. And yeah, Asia and Chelsea, a big part of that. Back to talk about the other team they play for in just a moment. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Back here with Matthew Walter at the Next. And so we mentioned it in passing, 10-2 in their last 12, playing as well as, the team that won the last 2 WNBA championships, which is not an easy thing to do, but to be, in double figures in net rating is really significant, typically the sign of a title contending and usually a championship winning team. But they're going to get tested right away. August 17th, first game back at home against the New York Liberty. What is the biggest thing you're going to look to take away from that particular matchup as we sort of get into that final stretch?
I would just say, what does everyone's legs look like? Because you're talking about 6 Aces players in the national team, in their respective country's national team. New York has 2 in Sabrina and Stewie. So you are taking probably 4 of the top 12-ish players in the league. Sorry, not 4, 6 of the top 12-ish players in the league and saying, okay, you just played all these games for your national team in Paris. Now you got to fly to Las Vegas, which is a 9-hour time difference. I know for you on the East Coast, it's only 6.
It is.
Out here on the beautiful West Coast, it's 9.
Yeah.
And you played a lot of games at, I'm pretty sure it's 9 p.m. start time in Paris because they want to get it for everybody in America on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to come play a game against the number 1 team and a team that just won back-to-back championships for the Liberty and Aces respectively, and a WNBA finals rematch. How are you going to feel physically? That's really the answer, is how do you feel physically? Also, the Aces have a back-to-back. That's their first of 2 back-to-back. So it's more.
It's the Sparks, right? The next day.
And the Sparks, who have had the Aces number this year. The Aces have not beat the Sparks, and the Aces have not shown up against the Sparks. So it'll be a really interesting, where is everybody at physically wise? Because I think they're all really talented basketball players. They'll figure out how to do what they do. But what does everyone look like at the end of the game, when we're in the fourth quarter, when we're tired after flying back from Paris, first 6 of the players and, 80% of the Aces starters and 40% of the Liberty starters. And then on top of that, you're doing the same thing, having to play back-to-back for the Aces.
It's going to be fascinating. And then a race, like you said, to the finish. That's August 17th. Last day of the regular season is September 19th. 14 games in a month. 14 games in a month. And then you go through.
And I said, coming into the break, the Aces played 8 games in 14 days in the month of July just to get to the Olympic break. So you had this condensed at the front, then you have the Olympic break, then you're condensed at the end. Health is going to be such a factor. We've already seen a lot of players out with injury. How is health going to play in for not just the Aces, but for every team going down the stretch, especially, back-to-back finals appearances means they played late into the season, and your point guard's coming off an injury. How are these things going to affect every team now, especially as we start this last stretch run to the playoffs?
Going to be fascinating. Cannot wait for it. And of course, make sure all of you listening, you are following Matthew Walter at Matthew Walter, WALTER 96 on all your social media channels as well. Matthew, journalist, coach, scholar, thank you for your time. Always to our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We will be back with you tomorrow talking to Haley McGoldrick all about Canada, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, and of course, the WNBA's incursion into Toronto. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every